Hey there, beautiful people. It's Dina, bringing another daily dose. Everything I share on this channel comes from my experience as a special needs mom and navigating through that, or an extreme parenting situation. I kind of wanted to go a little bit deeper on that today and explain to you a little bit more about what extreme parenting is, or really just in the world of caregiving. I'm a part of a lot of special needs groups on Facebook, special needs mom groups, or caregiving groups. When I was doing research in the very beginning of this topic of special needs moms, I wasn't finding a whole lot when it came to that, but I found a lot of information on caregivers, caregiver burnout, caregiver syndrome. When I was first trying to figure out what was going on with me or how I was to navigate this new challenge that I had of raising a child with special needs, I really learned a lot from just the caregiver aspect of that, because that's really the challenge, is that you're responsible for the care of somebody else for their entire life, whether that, for that being a special needs child, or you're responsible for the care of an ailing parent, or maybe you have a spouse that is now in a position where they can't care for themselves. So you're a spouse that's caring for your spouse, whether you're a wife caring for your husband or the other way around. And that can come with its whole new set of challenges. And what I see a lot in this community is there is a common theme amongst caregivers in general, that they feel isolated, alone, and they don't feel a support system. But the biggest thing is they feel like they just want to give up. And I do remember feeling that way. And I share very openly about how I felt this deep, despair and depression to the point I wanted to end my life. And I really couldn't pinpoint why I felt that way. I just knew that I felt such a heaviness on me and such a responsibility that I didn't want to do. Because I would say most people that are caregivers because of an unexpected situation, whether that's a child that you didn't know was going to have a diagnosis, or a spouse that now needs your care, or even an ailing parent in their older years. I watched my mom navigate through some tough stuff before her parents died, and that was really hard. She was their caregiver, and it was a 24/7 job, and that took its toll. And I could see that then. This was before Gracie was even born. But the majority of what I learned was from that community, that caregiver community. But going back to what I was saying, there is a common theme of just isolation, loneliness, and that's really what I felt. And so I see so many times where people will post comments in these groups that they're just saying, I don't have the support that I need. And honestly, I haven't figured that one out either, so I'm not really going to give you any answers on how you gain more support, because I still struggle through that myself. I have very little support when it comes to raising Gracie, and it's not because people aren't willing to, but honestly, it's my responsibility as the stay-at-home mom to care for her. My husband works a lot. My mom helps out, but my kids have their own kids and they have their own jobs. So they're not responsible for caring for Gracie. I am, and God has equipped me for that. But I don't have this big, huge community around me or a lot of babysitters. So a lot of times I'm the one that has to deal with the brunt of the responsibility of caring for Gracie. And that is something that I willingly do. I'm not saying it's easy though. There's definitely a lot of challenge. So I don't have the answer to how you gain more support or how you have more people that can give you breaks. And one of my very best friends, she has a lot of children. She's my co-host on my Junk Drawer Mama's podcast. And that's one of the biggest things that she struggles with all of the kids that she has and all the foster kids that she has. There isn't a lot of respite care. There's not a lot of time for her and her husband to get away from that. So that can, honestly, it can mess with your mind. It can mess with your body, your well-being, your spiritual health, all of that. And so I share most of my journey from that perspective. But one of the things that I learned, so when I see these posts about people that just feel isolated, alone, they just want to give up. They just don't care anymore. I just read one yesterday where she said she just doesn't care anymore. She barely survives. Her house is messy. She just doesn't want to do anything. It takes everything she has just to be able to get through the day. And I believe this was somebody that's taking care of an ailing parent, or maybe her husband. It wasn't a special needs mom, but I've seen it in special needs mom groups too. And I do remember what that was like. And if there's anything I could do to help another person come out of that dark place, then I'm going to do everything I can for the rest of my life to help somebody find freedom over that. Because what I ended up doing is that, again, I said I did not find a whole lot more support, but God did allow me to view the situation differently. And it really started with me making myself a priority. I had to put myself first. I had to put the oxygen mask on myself first. But in order for me to put the oxygen mask on myself first, I had to put God first. So that meant I had to surrender. I had to surrender all the things I was saying. This isn't fair. You don't understand. Why did you call me to do this? They don't have to do this. Why do I have to be the one that does all of this? I had to let go of all that. I had to let go of all of that nonsense talk. It was literally fueling my depression. And most of it was lies from the enemy, because it was based on my story that I was telling myself about the situation. Because not everybody walks through that and feels those things. I'm not saying every single mom that has a special needs child feels like they want to give up. I would say I've heard that a lot, but not everybody does. But I certainly felt that way because that's what I thought about all the time. My internal conversation was nothing but negative. So it contributed to my health. It contributed to my spiritual, decline, and even my relational decline in my marriage and, in my friendships and all of that. But it had to come from surrendering all of that. It didn't matter in the natural what it looked like. It didn't matter if it seemed unfair. It didn't matter if I didn't want to do this. I had to let it all go. I had to trust God. I had to make him first. And when I was able to surrender that to him and make him first in my life, then I was able to make myself first. And that's when the healing journey began. Honestly, that's really when the breakthrough started. Now, I'm not saying that I was able to just have this newfound perspective on everything. It's taken me years and years to get to where I'm at now. And it's a daily renewal. Honestly, it's a day-by-day thing. The job of a special needs mom, especially with, a child that has high behavior issues, it is a very challenging life. There are days that I feel completely depleted and exhausted at the end of the day, but I now have the tools. I know what I can do to get over that. I know how to renew my mind. I know how to let things go to God, but that was what he wanted to show me. And so when I see somebody that's so depleted and they just feel like I don't want to do this anymore, I get you. I was you. I'm still you on many days, but there is an end to it. I promise you there's an end to it. What I mean by an end to it, I'm not saying that the challenges won't be there, but there is an end to your perspective on it. That was the biggest freedom that I could possibly ever have had, was that I changed my perspective on it. Instead of looking at it like this punishment or looking at it like this thing that I just had to do that I didn't want to do, I learned to see it through God's eyes, and I learned who he was for me and who I was for him through that situation. So it's just changing that viewpoint. I learned how to be a bigger person in the situation. The situation didn't change. He didn't take everything away. I learned how to see things differently. And honestly, when you get to that place, you can look at a situation and it not be bothered as much as it was before. Now, there are things that still bother me. I am tired of cleaning up poopy messes every day. Honestly, I don't think I'm ever going to like that. I think I'm ever going to like a lot of the things that I do as a parent. But I've learned to be okay with it. I've learned to move past it quickly. I've learned to not allow it to dictate my mood or dictate my identity and tell me that I am less than, or that I'm a victim, or this isn't fair, or I don't have enough support. I stopped saying all those things. Now, if I need support, I will do my best to try to find it. I don't look at it like it's not fair that I have to be the one to try to find the support. Honestly, people aren't knocking on your door. Even your spouse, they're not going to just come to you and say, hey, how can I help you? Most people don't, because they're so wrapped up in their own thing, and rightfully so. They got their own stuff that they're dealing with. So they're not sitting here thinking, geez, I wonder if my wife, or I wonder if my mom, or I wonder if somebody needs help. But if you ask them, most of the time they will help you. So if I really need somebody, I will ask somebody. And again, I do have those go-to people. I couldn't do this without my mom, and I couldn't do this without my husband, honestly. But if I needed to bring in other help, I'm sure I could find that. I'm sure there's a lot of people that would love to spend the day with 𝘃𝗍 if I couldn't find my go-to people. But there were so many years that I just was angry that I even had to do that it was my responsibility. I remember thinking that my husband could just come and go as he pleased and take a shower when he wanted, and he could just do what he wanted without asking permission. But for me, I had to, can you watch 𝘃𝗍 so I can take a shower? I have to go run errands. It wasn't that he was doing anything wrong. It was my perspective, was it that he had something better than I had. And so then I had this resentment, which definitely affected our marriage and how I viewed the situation. That's the kind of stuff that God healed. First of all, I let go of all that nonsense and all that story that I told myself about the situation, and I learned how to see it through a different lens. And I learned how to get to a place where I don't want to give up. I'm not saying I want things to be the way they are, but I don't want to give up. I don't want to end my life. I don't want to live as a victim. I don't want to live in this defeated, I just don't want to do anything stage. I barely can get by. As long as I can get through the day, I'm fine. And I lived that way for so long, and it was not a good place to be. If you're getting through your day and all you care about is getting to the end of it and going back to bed like I did, that is not a healthy place. That is very toxic, and the enemy has control over your mind. It's time to take back what the enemy has stolen, and that's really the premise behind everything I do on Especially Empowered Moms, to try to help you understand who your true identity is in Christ, and knowing how valuable and worthy you are and how loved you are, and from that place, then you can step into that God-given authority and take up the spiritual weapons, the spiritual armor against the real enemy, which is the devil. That's the one that's really trying to kill, steal, and destroy you. It's not your spouse. It's not the people that won't help you. That's where you're feeling that defeated despair of wanting to give up. And it is so prevalent in the caregiver community. So it's my mission to really bring light into this and not pass judgment, because I was there. Not that I'm proud of it, but I was definitely there, to the point where the only thing that I thought was the way to get out of it was to end my life. And I look back now and think, what a shame that would have been if that did happen. I've been talking about why won't God rescue us. The last few videos, I think the last 3 I've done were about why won't God answer our prayers, or why won't he rescue us? And I'm so glad that he didn't rescue me when I wanted him to, because he allowed me to build the character and the resilience and the strength to be the person I am today, that I can even be here on this video right now, hoping to encourage somebody else that's going through that. So anyway, whatever you're going through, there is going to be an end to it. I want to leave you real quick with a scripture. Galatians 6:9 in the Amplified says, "Let us not grow weary or become discouraged in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give in." I had to cling to that. Do not grow weary in well-doing. You are doing good. God did call you to this. He is going to equip you. He's never going to call you to something that he isn't going to give you all the resources and the tools that you need to be able to fulfill on that, even being a special needs mama. So anyway, remember, he loves you. He has a purpose for you. It is good. I promise you. There is an end to this pain. Just keep pressing in. Keep allowing him to transform your view and your character and all of that, and step into who he's really called you to be. And I love you, and I can't wait for us to be together again. So have an awesome day.